The dojo occupied the top floor of a downtown tower, glass walls looking out over the Seattle skyline, the kind of space built to impress as much as to train in. The Castellano twins, Marco and Dante, stood in matching black GIs with gold-trimmed belts, identical down to the smirks they wore like part of the uniform. They had built a martial arts franchise into a seven-figure brand through tournament wins, social media, and a carefully cultivated reputation for being the best black belts most people in this city would ever see in person. Daniel Reyes mopped the floor near the equipment racks in a faded green t-shirt, work pants dusted with cleaning powder, a mop handle in one scarred hand. He was 39, had been cleaning this dojo for 5 months, and had learned to move through the space at the edges, invisible in the way people become invisible when they're holding a mop instead of a black belt. Marco was already laughing before he'd finished the sentence. $100, Marco said, peeling bills from a fold in his hand. Says you can't last 60 seconds with Dante. Just stay standing. That's all you have to do. Dante was grinning too, rolling his shoulders, the easy confidence of a man who had never once doubted the outcome of anything in this room. The students lining the walls, maybe 30 of them, arms crossed, watching with the careful neutrality of people who had learned not to react until their instructors reacted first, went quiet. Daniel set the mop against the wall. I just need this place mopped before the noon class, he said. It'll keep, Marco said, still holding out the money. 60 seconds. You afraid? Daniel looked at the bills, looked at Dante, who was already stepping onto the mat with the loose, confident movement of someone who had done this 100 times for an audience and never once been surprised. I'm not afraid, Daniel said. I'm trying to keep my job. This is part of the job today, Marco said. Boss's orders. Daniel looked at the 30 students watching, at the windows, at the city outside that had no idea what was about to happen in this room. Okay, he said. Daniel Reyes had spent 11 years in the Marine Corps, the last 6 as part of a reconnaissance unit whose specific training he did not discuss at job interviews or in break rooms. He had come home 4 years ago to a daughter named Sophia, 8 years old now, raised mostly by his sister while he was deployed, and a transition that civilian life had not made easy. He had taken the janitorial position at Castellano Martial Arts because the hours fit Sophia's school schedule, and because, after 4 years of trying to translate Recon Marine into language that civilian hiring managers understood, he had stopped trying to translate it at all. He cleaned the mats. He restocked the water station. He left at 3:10 every day without fail. He had not mentioned his service record to anyone at the dojo. He had been waiting, in some quiet way he hadn't fully admitted to himself, to see if it would matter. Dante settled into a fighting stance with theatrical flourish, playing to the room. 60 seconds, Marco called. Starting now. Dante moved first. A testing combination. Fast. Designed to read the reaction of an opponent he expected to be overwhelmed immediately. Daniel wasn't where the combination expected him to be. He had moved half a step at the exact moment the strike committed, the kind of small displacement that looks like nothing and changes everything, and Dante's combination found air instead of resistance. The room's quality of attention shifted. Dante reset, came again, faster, more committed. Daniel absorbed what he had to absorb and gave back almost nothing. Not aggression. Just the precise economical redirection of a man who had spent years being trained that the fight you survive is the one where you spend the least energy possible making the other person's energy work against them. 20 seconds in, Dante was breathing harder than he had budgeted for. 30 seconds in, one of his strikes was redirected so cleanly that he stumbled, recovering with a roll that drew a small intake of breath from the students at the wall. Marco had stopped smiling. At 50 seconds, Dante came at him with everything. Full commitment, the kind of combination he used to close out tournament matches, fast and powerful and meant to end things decisively. Daniel moved through it the way water moves through fingers, and Dante ended up on the mat, not thrown violently, just placed there with the specific economy of someone who had calculated exactly how much force was required and used precisely that much. The room was completely silent. Time, Marco said quietly, looking at his watch with an expression that had nothing to do with the bills still folded in his hand. Dante sat on the mat for a moment. Then he started laughing, not the performance laugh from before, something more genuine and slightly disbelieving. "Where did you train?" he said, looking up at Daniel. Daniel extended a hand and pulled him up. "A few places," he said. "That wasn't karate," Dante said, still catching his breath. "That wasn't anything I recognized." "Recon work," Daniel said. "You learn to control range and conserve energy. Doesn't have a name most schools teach." The room had gone from silent to murmuring, 30 students processing what they had just watched. Marco looked at the $100 still in his hand, looked at Daniel. "Marine?" he said. 11 years. "Recon?" 6 of those. Marco was quiet for a moment, recalibrating something visibly behind his eyes. "Why didn't you say anything?" he said. 5 months. "You've been mopping our floor for 5 months." "You never asked," Daniel said, "and it's not really a conversation starter. I used to do reconnaissance work, doesn't come up over restocking the water station." Marco held out the $100. Daniel looked at it. "I didn't do that for the money," he said. "I know, take it anyway. You earned it about 4 different ways in the last 60 seconds. Daniel took it, folded it, put it in his pocket without ceremony. "I have a proposal," Marco said. "I need to mop the floor," Daniel said. "Before the noon class." After the proposal. Daniel waited. "We want you teaching," Marco said. "Not replacing what we do. Something alongside it. Tactical awareness, real-world application. The stuff competition karate doesn't cover because competition karate isn't designed for actual danger." He looked at his brother, still slightly disheveled on the mat. "We just learned that the hard way. I have a daughter," Daniel said. "School pickup is at 3:10. Doesn't move." "Doesn't have to. And I'm not interested in being a spectacle. Whatever this becomes, it's not watch the veteran beat people up for entertainment." "Understood," Marco said. "We're talking about an actual curriculum, real instruction." Daniel considered it. "I'll think about it," he said. He picked the mop back up. "The noon class is in 11 minutes, he said. "I should finish this." He thought about it for 4 days. He talked to Sophia about it over dinner on the second night, not asking permission exactly, but the way he'd learned to talk through decisions with her since it had been the two of them navigating most things together. "Would you still pick me up at 3:10? She asked. This was, predictably, her primary concern. "Every day. That doesn't change no matter what." "Then I think you should do it." She considered her pasta with the seriousness she gave most decisions. "You're really good at the fighting stuff. I've seen you practice in the garage. You should let people know that instead of just mopping floors." "It's good honest work mopping floors." "I know, but you can do both things. The mopping isn't who you are, it's just a job you had." Daniel looked at his daughter, who had clearly been thinking about this with more clarity than he had. "When did you get so wise?" he said. "I'm 8, she said, like this explained everything, which in its way it did. He started teaching the following month. Tuesdays and Thursdays, after his shift, a program built around situational awareness and practical defense that drew students from outside the regular competitive membership, people who weren't interested in trophies, just in knowing what to do if the moment ever asked them to. He kept the janitorial hours, too, for a while. He told Marco he wasn't ready to leave solid ground before he could see how the new ground held weight, and Marco, to his credit, didn't push. Sophia came to watch one Thursday evening, sitting on the bench by the door with her homework, looking up periodically to watch her father teach a room of adults how to move efficiently through danger they hoped they'd never actually face. After class, Dante came over to where she sat. "Your dad's good at this," he said. "I know," Sophia said, not looking up from her homework. "He's good at a lot of things people don't notice right away." Dante looked at Daniel, who was racking equipment at the far end of the mat, methodical and unhurried, the same way he'd mopped this floor for 5 months without anyone asking what else he carried. "Yeah," Dante said, "I'm starting to see that. Some people walk into a room holding a mop and everyone decides instantly what that means about them. Some bets are made for entertainment and end up revealing something nobody expected to find."